playing a little catch up with a few movies that I missed over the last couple of weeks, and one of them was The Long Walk. This is directed by Francis Lawrence and written by J.T. Molnar and is based on the Stephen King novel of the same name. And this is a movie that I was very excited to see because I'm a fan of Stephen King and I do like a bunch of adaptations which are based on his works. And so I was looking forward to seeing it, but as I was at TIFF, I did miss it when it initially came out in theaters. And so I'm reviewing it a few days later. And this takes place in a dystopic future in America where economically the entire country has fallen apart. And in an effort to potentially make some difference, there are 50 young men who are picked to go on the long walk. Essentially, they are to walk endlessly until there's only one left standing, and whoever makes it to the end gets to get anything that they want and one big wish which will be granted. And during this entire movie, as you're going on this walk with these young men, things eventually do escalate when not everybody is able to keep up with it and the numbers start to decrease as more and more begin to be killed. So the premise is pretty simple. That they essentially have to keep walking until this is over and there's no stopping for them, which means that anything that happens at point of time, whether it comes to, feeling any kind of unease or whether it comes to any muscle injuries or just injuries in general, every time that they stop, they're given a warning. And unless they keep up a specific speed of which is about 3 miles an hour, they're going to get out and they'll have their ticket, as the major, played by Mark Hamill, says. And the way that Francis Lawrence directs this movie keeps you on the edge of your seat throughout, because you are constantly monitoring the speeds at which all of these characters are walking. And at any point when you see one of the men start to fall behind and you feel like, oh God, this could be disastrous for them, there's always a lump in your throat, a tension, like, oh God, what's going to happen? Are you going to be able to recover quickly, or is this the end of the line? And as more and more of them begin to be killed and the situation becomes even crazier as they have to walk up steep inclines and different, difficult terrains where they have to maintain that same amount of speed, even though it's incredibly difficult to do so, it makes for some riveting filmmaking, and the performances that you get from here are really great, particularly when it comes to Cooper Hoffman, who is fantastic over here. He plays Raymond Garrity, who is one of the main, men we're following on this walk. There is a motivation that is driving him as he's on this journey, and to see how it plays out in the movie, I think Hoffman did a great job. And there is an emotional angle to his character as well that I think came through very effectively. There is something, like I already mentioned, which is driving him. And to see how his past has affected the decisions that have led to this moment, I think they played it really nicely, and it added a lot of depth to whatever he was doing later as the walk continued. But the real star of the movie for me is David Johnson, who is continuing to impress me with every single project I see him in. I talked about this last year with Alien Romulus, but I remember watching Industry, where he showed up first, and thinking, this guy's got something. I really want to see where he goes next. And with movies like this, Rylane, and Alien Romulus, and seeing where else his talent has gone, he really is the future of what all you can do with great actors, and I cannot wait to see what he does next. He is spectacular in this movie, and as Peter McVries, who is the other man who was walking alongside Raymond in a lot of this, and the two of them become very good friends as this entire walk continues. I think first of all, the friendship between them, the camaraderie between them, almost this brotherhood that forms between them is really, really well captured. And Johnson is really wonderful in the movie. The supporting characters, a lot of the other cast members that you get, everybody does a really good job. Mark Hamill playing this really menacing major is scene stealing whenever he shows up on screen. Judy Greer, who plays Raymond's mom, she is also really soul shattering over here. There's a few moments with her that really did leave quite a bit of a lump in my throat, and it very much emotionally does sweep you. And that's something that really surprised me on the movie at every turn, is how much of an emotional trip this ends up being, because obviously, as this is going on, these men are walking with the intent that they want to make it to the end, but they might not. So 49 men are gonna die because they're not gonna be able to keep up with the long walk. And the way that that starts to hit them as the movie progresses and as you see, more of these, tougher situations come into play, as you're seeing this desolate landscape around them where everything seems to have gone into complete financial ruin, and even, basic things like, food and water seems to be, in scarcity now. The way that all of that is depicted, it really brings forth, just what a desperate situation this is and why everyone is so eager to see this through to the end, because the walk keeps going until there's only one left. And again, it's just really well executed by Francis Lawrence and JT Molner's script, which is very well written throughout. It's also incredibly meta to bring Francis Lawrence to do a movie like this where it's in a dystopic landscape and you're seeing everything collapsing and decisions being made in order to do something, to benefit either yourself or others. It's very much like The Hunger Games, which he directed the last few movies: Catching Fire, Mockingjay, Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, and he has this very good handle on that kind of storyline and how to depict something like that on screen. And I think to have him making a movie like this was honestly a very inspired choice. It's like, yeah, I think if anyone could nail it, it's the guy who's made most of the movies in a franchise built around a very similar concept of just a completely ruptured society. It's a really great looking movie too. A lot of wides and a lot of landscape shots, but also when they're going through these darker moments, in the middle of the night when it's raining or you have these spotlights shining from them, the trucks which are going alongside them in case one of them decides to slip up or they need a canteen refill. They handle all of that in really striking ways as well, and visually striking ways too. There's also some humor to the movie, which I thought was really well handled. I think they nailed those moments as well. There are some characters who I think I would have liked a little bit more time with, and there are some things that you learn about them that there's definitely more underneath the surface that unfortunately you don't get to know that much about beyond a certain point. And I think that if there was a little bit more of that, that could have been interesting. There's a couple of things that, especially towards the climax of the movie, where it's like, oh, I would like a little more, explanation to some of those things. You don't really get that because it's like, all right, that's it, moving on. Which I know that there are those who if you're fans of Stephen King, sometimes that just is one of those things. But beyond that, I think The Long Walk is really great. I loved this movie. I think it's one of the best Stephen King adaptations ever made. I think it's a brilliantly directed piece of filmmaking, and I highly recommend checking out The Long Walk, and I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10. Really, really solid stuff. I was surprised at how much I loved the movie, but it really is pretty great. Thank you guys. Thank you very much as always for watching. Look forward to more videos very soon. I also have to see The Conjuring, the Last Rites movie. I figured I'd finish that up as well, so I'll share those thoughts with you soon too. As always, if you like this, please do subscribe. I'll see you guys at the movies.